Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cup of Three. My name is Ashley. I am joined, as always, by my friend and co-host Mabel, and fiance and co-host Agu. Welcome back. Hello, right.
Pull my face up to smile because
because you're hiding behind your mic. It does look a little bit like you're wearing a mask. It's just like
you looked like a little kid in like a choir, like I'm here. Like,
I'll get you a little stool. All right. So, as you guys have probably realized, our cadence for this season is a little bit different than how we've done it before. So, just up top, I just wanted to say that obviously we still want to do the show. We're still doing the show, but we're trying to kind of make it work a little bit better for us just because we're busy people with full-time jobs, and this is really our passion project, and we want to find ways to make it fit in and work for us and not, take up too much of our free time because there's less and less of it seems every day. So we might not be releasing every week. We kind of have it just kind of depends on our availability. So I just wanted to say we are still working on it. We're still staying up on Married at First Sight. We still want to talk about it with you guys, but we might not have episodes coming out every single week. We might talk about other things that are sort of Married at First Sight adjacent that are still about relationships, which we love to talk about. And we still want to connect with you guys. So as always, go check out our Instagram, Cup of Three Podcast, or email us at cupof3podcast@gmail.com. And we just want to hear all your thoughts and feelings about this season, relationships, anything we talk about, whatever.
Or even topics to talk about.
I can already hear the email. Like, I'm just hearing a lot of excuses from you guys. Less excuses, more recording.
You guys are canceled. We need more content from you.
Let's get to talking.
Look.
Less talking. Oh, I have a job. I have a life. Get to recording, people. Get to recording.
Dang it. There goes our HelloFresh sponsorship.
Damn it. Oh, we're missing out on the $0 we made from that.
We talk about them for free
we are awesome.
So much. Yes.
Oh, God. All right. Well, today we were going to talk about, of course, Married at First Sight, Season 13. And we watched up to episode 5. So the folks are on their honeymoons. They're living their best lives. Unfortunately, we got some COVID situations. So poor Zach and Michaela aren't really able to enjoy their honeymoon. So Zach is recovering from that in quarantine by himself. But the rest of the couples are getting to hang out and meet each other's spouses for the first time and kind of settle in a little bit in Florida Keys, which is, the destination spot for COVID weddings.
Marla considered that old people's home is what she...
What do you guys think? Do you think that's fair of what the resort looked like?
It just better locations we're not being paid by the show. Available.
That's true.
I mean, every time I've been to Florida, it's been with my grandma. So that's, I don't know. I don't know if that says anything, but do you think they did? Maybe they just wanted, maybe they just want to stay in the country because we are in a pandemic.
I think she just wanted beachfront with infinity pool look, Instagram worthy.
Yeah. I can kind of understand the feeling of I'm going to get married to a stranger. I'm on a reality show. We're going to be getting kind of lavishly, luxuriously housed somewhere for a honeymoon. And then you go to Florida and you're like, okay, Florida, I'm not trying to hate on Florida, only a little bit. But as a honeymoon destination, I feel like if they wanted to stay in the country, I would have almost gone a different route. Let's go somewhere up in the mountains to some cool cabin resort type of thing where people can go skiing and something like that, where it's a very different vibe than what we really see. Or I don't know, America's a big country. There's plenty of cool places to send people that
go to Ohio. There's lots of strip malls out there.
No one go to Ohio ever.
McDonald's.
Just never. Just avoid it altogether.
Spoken by true Michiganders.
Oh my God.
Also, garbage. They know it.
Listeners have better honeymoon locations. Please tell us where they should send these folks if they had to stay in the country. Because I guess Hawaii, I don't know if that counts as because you're traveling very far for it, still the U.S., but
that'd be fun.
With a COVID situation, that might not be the best idea. Anyways, I digress.
Like, I would have preferred Colorado over Florida Keys, you know.
I think it's also a bit of a personal preference, as we saw. Even Mirla was like, this is not what I would have done for myself. And hey, it's hard to please 10 different people when you don't really know them that well and you're trying to have the best honeymoon experience ever. I mean,
also, it is free. It is free. They are giving you this for free. It's kind of hard to be like, oh, the free caviar you gave me doesn't have enough salt in it. Like, it's free. Be thankful. So I get it. But in Florida, I was joking with the whole my only been there with my grandma. Florida is nice. Like, it's very similar to Nigeria's weather. So I empathize a lot, but yeah.
A lot of humidity.
I think my Mexico prediction was a better, cooler place than Florida Keys, if I'm being honest. But, you know, whatever.
Yeah, it makes sense why they wouldn't want to travel that far, though.
Yeah.
Well, anyways. So, we're just kind of going to bop around a little bit because we have a few things that stuck out to us from these episodes that we'd like to dig into. So I'm going to start with Bao and her snoring and how this seems to be like kind of coming up as a thing with her and Johnny, where she's very insecure about it. And he kind of keeps like poking fun around it. And like, I don't know, does it kind of feel like this is going to be a recurring conversation with them?
I mean, I just feel like Johnny was being playful and he didn't pick up on how sensitive he probably should have been in that moment for Bao, because for her, it's not just a little insecurity, it's a big insecurity. And he was like, I don't get it. What? Why? Why does it matter? It's you. Which maybe it's stereotypically more of like a guy answer to be like, whatever.
Is that like a New York accent? Whatever.
That's in my head. That's stereotypically how a guy sounds.
Oh, I don't know.
She says like Tim's on all of a sudden and it's like going to the bodega.
Right. I'm walking here.
No.
There's so many overlapping.
I'm sorry, listeners. We're going to get so off topic today.
I mean, the episode 5, like we're trying to bring out stuff in this episode. It was meh. It was okay.
Yeah, it's a little slow because I feel like at this point, everyone, for them overwhelmingly, is like, things are going well. I just don't know them yet, and so it's so surface level. And like Jose and Rachel are like, we're in love and everything's perfect and fine. But anyways, I don't know. With Bao, I agree. I think that he is not really understanding how sensitive that is.
Yeah.
And so my concern would be, because I know how like my insecurities, if that's something that like Agu would be playful and not take seriously, that I would like really feel some type of way about it. I think like that could become something where she just gets more and more insecure and in her head about it, and he doesn't think anything of it, and it becomes a thing because he's not able to kind of meet her where she is with it. You know, like it's just kind of like I feel like if he could just be like, hey, it's totally okay. It really doesn't bother me that much. Like, I'm in it for the long haul. I like want to figure out what this is. And like, I do this weird thing and like try to kind of show that he's also like not the perfect human, because no one is, then maybe it would feel a little bit more lighthearted. But I think she like, I don't know. I worry that she's getting a little bit too like stuck in her head about it.
Yeah, I get that. It's clearly something she is very affected by. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add to it. I think you guys both like I was more interested in, well, two things. One was he asked Jose to help him buy a dress for her during their dinner. Ask one of the ladies. Like, Jose seems lovely and a gentle and a great guy, but that dress choice, like, she joked around, but she's right. Like, it was like an extra large. Like, does she, like, you can't even get the sizing right? Like, yo, just, I don't know. So there was that. And then, we end up learning that he kind of ghosted her when they were like after their friend's date in college. But from what she was describing, I get like, how would he have known that that was a date as well? So like, I don't.
I've dated people like that. It's confusing.
Exactly. Like, I don't.
That's like high school.
It's 100% high school. Yeah, for sure. It's like, we got chicken nuggets together. Like, we are now a thing. How do you not know this?
We shared a dipping sauce. This is forever.
And now they're married. Yeah, I don't. So I thought that was kind of interesting because it kind of goes off of the thing of, I mean, he said it multiple times. He kind of needs someone to be a little bit more clear on their feelings. And I get the feeling from her that she's one of those people that like she wants you to read her. And that's going to be an interesting situation to see how that meshes together. So like the snoring thing, like, okay, like now we can tell that that was like she was kind of opening up her heart and sharing this, but that's a kind of funny story to be like, oh, I didn't go to sleep. Like, I see why he went to comedy right away. So just being a little bit more clear, like, hey, this is something I'm really insecure about, and this is something I really am working on. And then like, if you say that, like, he's not going to go and he's not going to make jokes about it.
Yeah.
At that point.
You have to show your vulnerability.
I think so. Yeah.
But I think that's pretty common early on in relationships anyway. You
That's fair. Yeah.
mistakenly step on some landmines and you're like, oh, wait, this is really sensitive for you. I'm sorry. And then you learn from that and you don't do it again. So I feel like he kind of got the hint, like, hey, snoring may not be a big deal to you, but to me it is. So be careful.
Yeah.
Avoid those snoring landmines. Don't talk about it. I kind of want to hear how bad the snoring is now, though. Is that just me? But, okay.
I mean,
He really did try to be playful the whole time, though, with it. Like, critters in the night. Like,
Yeah.
he did. And like, you can tell he's really into her. Like when they went to the swimming pool and he was like, I'm going to have to really focus on what she's saying because all I can think about is that ass. Like he literally said something very similar to that.
No, he did. He's like,
He saw her in her swimsuit and was just like, her booty is fire.
that was so
Just like,
cute.
live your life, enjoy her booty, but like on her terms.
He's being very respectful. That's sweet of him.
Yeah.
Respect women. You literally did the respect women meme with that. That's funny. Yeah. Yeah. Also, didn't she say her celebrity crush is Conan O'Brien? Really?
Which
Her hall
interesting.
pass is also Conan O'Brien. She said,
Right.
hey, by the way, which he was totally cool with. He was like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'm okay with the hall pass.
He was cool
Well, I
with
mean,
it.
he made it weird, too. He's like, if I watch, it's like, oh, I don't know
that was
about
funny.
that.
Oh my God.
I don't like that. But
Yeah.
Conan
But
O'Brien,
I like-
really? Okay.
I like though how when they talked about like, you know, kind of what type of like body type that they're attracted to, and she said, yeah, Conan O'Brien, I like that he owns his lankiness and that like basically he's just confident in himself with the body he was randomly given, and how she like prefers a more lean body type, and he made some comment about like, oh yeah, I like haven't hit the gym as much as I want to or whatever. Like he clearly thought, oh, I have to fit this male body standard of I have to be big and muscular and like the big mountain guy. And she like very quickly was like, no, I actually think you're great how you are. And you could see him just be like, oh, good. Like I'm already what you want. Like what a relief.
Yeah.
And like he also kind of felt the same about her. And I thought that was a very nice light conversation to have early, to just be like, no, I like what I'm seeing here. Like just as you are, you don't have to be something different, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like body types can be such a sensitive conversation. And I'm glad that they're like helping boost each other up. Hey, he thinks you're sexy. She thinks you're sexy. So your body type's great. Because I feel like that can be an easy like insecurity. Because she was even talking about with the bathing suit. Like she doesn't like to go out with it. It's been the first time in a long time. She'd rather wear it in the house. And I mean, girl, I get it. Going out in a bathing suit with someone you just met,
Oh
even
my
though you've known
God.
each other for years, like
It's a lot.
few insecurities can come up there.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. Yeah. Oh, and also to be fair to him, like he's around, like a few of the people who are on the show with him are freaking massive. So like, like you're gonna look tiny compared to Gil. Like, I'm sorry, like you're killing it. You're doing.
I mean, everybody looks tiny next to Gil.
But like, man looks like a mountain. So I get that.
Man stood next to a beach umbrella. It looked like the kind you put in your drink.
I want to be like that level of swole. Like, that is what I'm going for. Where like, it just doesn't even make any sense. Like that Drake line where it's like, everyone is so uncomfortable. Like, it's just a level of swole where everyone's just like,
what's the line? Ass so fat that everyone in the room is so uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, so you're saying about the ass, but still.
But
swole so much.
Man so swole, everybody in the room is so uncomfortable.
It's just like, I don't know. What am I doing here? Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
But
They are cute. They're very, very
I feel
cute.
like a few things we talked about here, it shows how vulnerable they're getting with each other, about the snoring, about him kind of being a little afraid of commitment when it comes to his first date, serial dating, her being a little self-sabotagey. Like, I feel like they're really being vulnerable with each other, and I think it's super sweet because everybody has something going on in their life, whether it's insecurity, baggage, whatever, and I feel like owning it has really helped their relationship get closer. It's really sweet.
Like, it was like, I don't have any of that. No.
No,
Perfect.
no,
What are you talking about?
I see why other people would feel that way, but I do not. Yeah, no, you're right.
Peasants.
Get your weight up, son. Okay. What did you think about that? So they announced to everyone else that they've kind of known each other at some point in college. A part of me thinks for a person, like, they've known each other, albeit it was a long time ago, but they still feel like strangers around each other. And that, I think that's, am I overthinking this, or is that just, it's been, 3 days and they haven't seen each other in 10 years?
I don't think they're being weird. Like, I think think about somebody that you knew back in college and who you haven't had in your life since then. And now you're spending like all your time with them. It's like, yeah, you're familiar with them, but it's still like, it's a wild situation to be like, okay, the idea is that we're going to spend the rest of our lives together.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So I don't think, it doesn't sound like they were like the best of friends back then. It's just like, there's a familiarity there. Like, I think they're doing pretty well, all things considered. You know, like, they seem to be kind of meeting each other where they are for the most part. And like you said, they're being really great about being very vulnerable and open. I think that's one of Johnny in particular, like, his big strengths is we saw, like, he was willing to talk about like really hard stuff on camera and is very, very open about it. Like, all the stuff with his dad and like being on the phone and talking about like how all of that makes him feel and his history with his dad and their relationship. Like, that's big stuff to talk about on national television. And he went there and was okay with it. He cried on like his openness, I think, is going to be a big asset for them. Yeah. Not saying that Bao isn't, but just like that's a good thing to add.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm. I like them. They're super sweet.
Yeah, they're cute.
Mm-hmm.
While we're on them, do you want to talk real quick about like their sort of physical intimacy? Because it seems like Bao is also kind of needs a little bit of time to warm up to the idea of like being closer. Like, she has the pillow in between them when they're sleeping, and like that's kind of been the point of conversation a few times. Like, how do you think that's gonna go?
I mean, I think that's one of the, I mean, we kind of talked about it earlier where I think Johnny needs someone to be a lot more obvious and straightforward with him. And I think the subtlety of, like, I held your hand like once this afternoon is not going to be like enough for him. But it seems like they're talking. Actually, they might not have necessarily talked about it, but I think they have the ability to talk about it. So right now they're not, and that's fine. Like, they're kind of being separate in that way, understandable. But hopefully they have the comfort around each other to talk about it. That being said, I think I kind of think they're not going to make it now a little bit. And that's that's my main thing. We're really early, so who knows? But I think if anything, that might be the cause. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on it. What do you think, Mabel?
I could kind of relate to Johnny when he mentioned in the picnic that, hey, I really like you, but I don't know if you like me, because even though you hear Bao say, like, hey, I like how you've been kissing me, it feels like we're getting closer, and I can tell how you'd be a lover, later. And she's kind of saying some things that would allude to how attracted she is to him, but what he sees is that he is not getting a whole lot of physical touch, and he needs that. So if I were in his shoes, I'd also feel a little rejected. Like, wait a second. You may be telling me that you're into me, but I'm not actually seeing it with your actions. So I don't know if I can buy it. Which, I guess that kind of talks to Gil and Mirla, which I'll talk about later.
For sure, yeah.
It worries me more for their level of communication between each other. Like, I think they kind of need to get to a point where they can understand each other, how they express each other, because right now it seems like they're kind of missing one another.
Yeah, I do worry a little bit about it longer term too, because I think, like, obviously both of them can go at whatever pace feels comfortable, right, for like physical affection. Like, I get that can be scary, and it's weird to force it, and it makes it worse to try to force it.
Yeah.
But there needs to be some other love language maybe that's sort of substituted in the beginning to still communicate those feelings, I think. And so I think Bao struggles with this a little bit. Like when they were at the pool and she was talking about how like he ghosted her or whatever. And he was like, I need someone who just, says that I'm, let's go on a date, or like, I'm interested in you. And she was like, she literally said, like, I can't just do that. It's just not a skill she is comfortable learning yet or exercising. And so I don't know if her like vocalizing that is going to be super easy for her either, to be like, it kind of has to be drawn out of her a little bit. And that's come up in like some of their conversations after he's like really kind of getting her there. But maybe there's other ways that they can find that are ways that she can show her affection. And like, maybe it's just like writing him notes, or maybe it's like something that's a little bit less intense, just like ways to still show that care and affection that, like, I mean, he clearly wants, but also is just like a great part of relationships, and like getting that validation of like, yes, we're doing this, like this is going well. So I don't know. It's really tough. It's tough because I don't, you don't want it to seem like she has to get her act together and like get comfortable real fast so that they can make it. Because if that's not, again, like forcing it isn't going to help anything. Like that never works. It has to really be built on that foundation of trust.
Yeah. I hope I don't come across that way.
Oh no, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, no, I know. But I think when I bring this up, I think it's like making it, like, I think any relationship can work if both parties want it to, but there's certain factors that make it easier, and I feel like her type of personality, you need someone who's like a Woody, who's just shooting hella shots and is like just fine with being turned down, where someone like Johnny, who is a little bit more introspective, and like you can tell that he's like clearly thinking every action he does over, like that little tiny sign of her like not holding his hand, he's gonna like read into that way more than she intends. And I think that's the thing where, like you said, that's not on her. Like, that's her personality type. Like, that's fine. Some people don't like physical touch. Like, that's totally okay. But I think that's my fear, is like her being like, oh, I just don't feel like being around you today. In his head, he's like, oh my gosh, we're fighting and she hates me and she wants to go be with Conan O'Brien or something. Like that type of stuff.
And that comes from insecurity too, right?
Yeah.
It's like he has to get to a place, hopefully, where like he feels okay in himself, where if he doesn't get that validation constantly, because that's really what that is, right? Like when he's asking for a needy partner, he needs that kind of overcompensation of assurance to know that things are okay, things are okay, things are okay, over and over and over. And like, when that goes away, are you able to do that for yourself? That like, I'm okay. And like, if the relationship isn't okay, I'm still okay because I'm looking after myself. It's not someone else looking after me to make sure that I'm still all right, you know? And so like, there's some growth that could help that, but I don't know. They seem to be just starting to navigate it.
I hope we see a little bit of both, though, going forward, where Johnny is able to like talk himself through, yep, we're okay, she told me we're okay, but also where Bao's kind of taking that, like, wait, at the picnic, he didn't think I was into him, but clearly I've been expressing how into him I am, so he's not getting it. So let me then, you know,
take that note.
Fill in the blank. Yeah. I hope that we see both of that, because I do agree that that validation is something that he needs, and maybe he could make a little progress to help fill in those gaps for himself. But at the end of the day, like, I think he is going to need someone that's a little more forward, kind of like he talked about in the beginning. He was used to a girl approaching him and being like, hey, I'm into you. So him be like, oh, okay, I think I can be into you too. Which I kind of feel about that, but I was like, okay, dude, whatever.
I mean, to be fair to Johnny, like, most girls are in that situation. If we're being, like, most of the time the guys, like, talk to a girl, and then she's like, all right, I think I'm into you. It's just the roles have reversed on this one a little bit. But I can already feel the, like, not agreeing, but okay, fair. On super last thing on this, but, like, I think this is why more people are dog people than cat people. Right? Like, dogs are constantly coming up to you like, oh my gosh, you're back. Oh, give me attention. Where, like, you know, I grew up with cats, and sometimes our cat would come over and be like, oh, hey. And other times it'd be like, who are you? Why are you in my house? Like, you're
it's
not
like flipping you off from the corner.
Right.
Like, what? I just fed you.
And, like, just being okay with that ambiguity. Oh my Lord. Being okay with that, I'm going to mispronounce it, so I won't say it, is, it's like, not everyone can handle that. Like, I think that certain personality types are okay with that. So,
good point.
Just because I know I've read a few things, people are like, oh, Johnny should know. I'm like, half of the people saying this, if your dog, like, didn't come up and say hi to you, you'd be like, this dog doesn't like me anymore.
Oh, I would never stop crying.
Yeah. You know?
I would be like, what did I do?
Exactly.
Are we fighting? Is it something I said? Oh God. All right. Let's hop on over to Jose and Rachel. Maybe we can start talking about their finances conversation. So, Mabel, you wanted to talk a little bit about their whole joint and separate accounts thing.
Yes. Which those who watch the Unfiltered on Amazon Prime talked a little more. Wait, it's actually on live TV. Anyways, those who watched the Unfiltered afterwards also was a little more context to it too. They have the conversation about finances, and first Rachel brings it up saying, what do you think? How do you feel? And she says that she thinks there should be both joint and separate accounts. Joint for their bills, their shared expenses, and then separate accounts for everything else. And he responds by saying, yeah, definitely we can have joints, but he's more in the pool of let's have joint for everything. And then when, this is Jose talking, I finish paying our bills for the month, the rest of that money is yours. And that kind of rubbed her the wrong way. She was like, wait a second, are you giving me an allowance? Like, I'm an independent woman. I don't need an allowance. And one thing I wanted to add about the Unfiltered that gave more context to it, I totally missed it when I was watching the episode. Apparently, when they're talking in that conversation, Jose's twirling her hair. And both Bao and Rachel talking about it in the Unfiltered were like, is he even listening to you?
Yeah. Yeah. Don't play with other people's hair. It's just weird. It's not weird. If you guys are into it, that's fine. But I think that
a serious conversation that
would have caught me off guard for sure. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
How do you feel on it? Just putting it right back to you. But like, how do you feel about her statement on that?
I was a little confused only because I got the impression from her interviews that, yes, she is independent, but she is more, maybe because it's the breakup, looking for someone to protect her a little more and be Obviously faithful, because that's like the biggest thing that she was talking about in her past relationship. But I didn't really get that vibe from the interviews. And now in the episodes, 100%, I see it. Like, she's like, hey, I'm independent. I've gotten myself to the financial stability I am, and therefore I can continue to take care of myself. But maybe I'm just misreading it, but please let me know if I am. I kind of saw a little bit of a curveball. Like, wait, I thought this was what you were looking for, a little bit more of the traditional roles in the marriage.
Right. I have such a hard time, like, I think talking about the whole provider mindset non-judgmentally, because I just feel like it's so rooted in, like, just really, really traditional and rigid gender roles, and, like, often kind of a lack of respect almost for, like, a woman's ability to just take care of her own shit. And I was thinking about this before of, like, well, how do you approach that parts of that traditional mindset with a modern relationship where there really is more equality between the two partners? Because clearly with both of them, they're both working, they're both supporting themselves, and she's not clearly looking for someone to, like, take over all of the financial aspects and et cetera, et cetera. But he really, really finds it important to feel like he is providing for his wife and that he's taking care of her. And I guess my question would be, are there other ways that he can express that aren't so, I don't know what word to use. Like, it feels overbearing to me. And I think that's maybe, like, she feels a little bit stifled and a little offended almost that, like, no, I don't need this. Like, I've set up my life so that I don't need this. And I want you, and I want our partnership, and I want you to care about me and take care of me. But I don't need that in the form of money. Like, we do that together where, like, we pool our resources to do the stuff we want to do. So, yeah. I don't know. I get really stuck on that part of it.
Yeah. I think it's really... I'm with you, Ashley. Like, I think it's really hard to talk about it in a way that's from a place of understanding and not to, like, put your own personal opinions on it. Like, I know I have that challenge a lot when it comes to this. But I think, ironically, us talking about this show, I forget the season that was, but it was the opposite, where, like, the guy wanted a more modern version of relationship, and she
Will and Jasmine.
Will and Jasmine,
season 10, I think.
I think it might have been before, because I think 10 was like the Katie Derrick.
I want to, like, get to the point where, like,
my notes.
You know, like, if you're talking to some people, they can, like,
Season
quote
8,
the Bible
Philly.
Immediately. I want to get to that point with this show where I can just be like, season 8 and episode 13. Jasmine said to Will. But I think that whole storyline kind of got me thinking about this. And really, it's like women in the workforce. So, like, before women in the workforce. Like, but beforehand, like, the guy kind of had to, because we were in a situation in an economy, in a society where, like, women didn't even really have the option to work for themselves. Yeah. So, or if they did, the jobs that they had available weren't enough to provide. So of course the guy has to, because he's the one who's making the majority of the income. And I think, like, basically it's been from, like, the 60s where, like, we've gotten to a point where there's been a very big push for women rights in the workplace. And like Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 was, like, a song about women having equal rights in the workplace. And I think there's still that transition of people getting used to that, where, like, literally our grandparents didn't really even have that option. So, like, it's not even that far ago, you know, like, this is a generation or two removed. So, and for country, and I've noticed, and that's here. And then for other countries, it's even more, in my opinion, like that, where, I mean, there are still some countries where, like, you're working and they're like, okay, like, we know she's going to quit when she hits age to get married because she's going to then find a husband and leave the job. So like, there's so much of that going into this where it's really, really tricky to. So I don't want to judge the people who prefer that because that's totally fine. And it's been like that for a very, very long time. So I get that. But then on the other side, I think like, obviously I kind of prefer the more modern way of viewing that.
Hold on. Once we get married, are you saying that you don't want me to quit and just rely on your income? Because that was my plan.
I mean, okay. I don't
Jasmine
know.
and Will's word, pregnant and barefoot.
I'd be pregnant and barefoot in the kitchen. Lord.
I just did not like that line.
I can't even joke about that without feeling gross.
Yeah, that was a rough line.
Well, sorry about that. Anyways.
But I mean, like, I'm not so no for me, but there's a lot of people that I know who would prefer that, you know?
Sure.
And I don't think they're necessarily bad people or anything like that, but I think it does kind of come back to, this is my personal opinion, but there's a little bit of security in knowing that the person is reliant on you a little bit. Like, it's like with a company, if you're getting paid well, the company knows it's harder for you to leave or to find something else, as opposed to if you're getting paid very little, it's very easy for you to go somewhere else and make that same amount of money. Yeah. And there's a level of comfort for the company's perspective that, hey, I'm paying you $250. The chances of you going somewhere else to getting $250 a year is harder than if I'm paying you $9 an hour. You could probably find that almost anywhere else. And I think when it comes to relationships, I've kind of noticed that where there's a little bit of like security in knowing that you guys are connected in that way. So I
but
get
if you
why
think
people
about it,
want that, but that's
like,
kind of.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
But if you think about it, like, but if you think about it the other way, like it's also security for the woman to be like, hey, he can't feed himself and keep the house clean without me. And there are a lot of cultures still today that teach women how to sexually please a man because that's like one of the primary things that she needs to be mindful of when they're married. So it goes both ways, like that security blanket of this is what the man's role is and this is what the woman's role is, because, and that's their version of respect to say, hey, I need to honor the man's role in this and not step on his toes. And I need to honor the woman's role in this and therefore revere her as a natural, essence to the earth that births children, that I can't disrespect that. And therefore I need to hold that to high. Like, I think that, that's like very primal way to say it. But even, Rachel talks about it in the Unfiltered episode saying, hey, like, this is very traditional Hispanic culture. I mean, I'm Hispanic. I grew up in this. Like, this is traditionally a woman is beta, thinking about alpha, beta. And I have some friends that even like use these terms to describe relationships. Like, alpha is the man, protector, leader, in front, decision maker. Beta is the follower and knows how to do that well. You have both that complement each other. I think what's different in modern relationships that have more progressive roles, think about it in alpha doesn't mean male and beta doesn't mean female. Female can't talk. And I think it's just like you both were saying, it's two sides of the same coin. Like, hey, let's complement each other. It's just complementing each other in different ways. I may see myself as alpha or beta. You may see yourself as alpha or beta. And if I have more traditional roles, I am told and I'm okay with seeing myself as beta because that's how I respect myself as a woman. I am dainty. I am feminine. I am a caregiver. I'm a provider for the family, not financially, but I feed the kids. I raise the kids. I teach them manners. I prepare them into the world. You teach them how to hunt, the men, how to, like, again, primal examples, but like the idea there is, what is my strength bringing to the relationship and what is your strength bringing to the relationship? And more traditionally, those are predefined for you. And plenty of people see that as the highest form of respect and honor because that is what we were born to do. And therefore reaching that kind of like level is success if I can fully embody what I was born to do.
Yeah, that's a really, really interesting way of describing that, because I feel like maybe the deviation between like those traditional roles where you have an alpha person and a beta person is we're seeing two people who have a list of qualities that are both alpha and beta, and then finding complementary aspects. So in different aspects of the relationship, one person is more, to just for lack of a better term, dominant, and in other aspects the other person is, and like that's maybe more about like just personal strengths, but like it's more like from the outside in a very oversimplified way, instead of seeing it as like almost like a boss and employee kind of relationship where like it feels like there's like a power imbalance in that too, a little bit. But then instead of that, it's like two like neutral parties coming together, and then like kind of the business is the relationship instead of, you know, all of that. And like I'm not trying to knock one or the other. Like everyone can have the type of relationship that they want, but I think with Rachel and Jose, they maybe are looking at those things slightly differently, and they might have to negotiate a little bit on like what works for both of them to feel secure and like their role is respected and that they're like playing into the dynamics that they really want.
Yeah. And I will say, gosh, I was not expecting us to feel serious. Like, but first, like, yes, this is in a patriarchal society that we're giving our example. Like, there are traditional, like, cultures in West Africa where it's actually the opposite, where it's the female who shares her last name, and she's the one who divides up the resources and land. And so I definitely that's like a mini disclaimer. And a lot of families that were during, to get even more serious, like during slavery, typically the woman was the one who was closer to the slave master and had access to more resources. So she would be the head of the household in that sense. Well, so there's a lot of history in this, and we're speaking in generalities right now, but hopefully no one takes offense to that. Disclaimer aside, the point I found interesting with this, though, is it's kind of when there's been a clear rule and a clear set of guidelines, I think there's some comfort in just knowing, hey, if I do my part, like to use our example, if I provide and I bring money and food, I did my part. Now it's up to the other person to make a home and take care of the kids and be the backbone of our household. And I think when we start talking about this modern, quote unquote, modern or just progressive, it's harder because there's really the rules don't really exist yet. Like, okay, you guys are both working. Who takes care of the kids? Who's going to do the baby, preparing meals? Like, that's up to you. Like, there's no rules to that. And I think that's where it gets tricky, because everything is a debate. Everything is something that you have to come to a conclusion for, where with some of those different things that we've been talking about with, more patriarchal family points, that was already set. Like, yeah, maybe you could debate, maybe one person is a better cook than the other, so they do some cooking, but generally speaking, it's the woman who's going to do the cooking. And like, those roles were already set, and you just kind of go in there and you do what you're supposed to do, and I think that is very comforting. I went to a boarding school where they like told us to wake up at a certain time and go study at a certain time and research at a certain time and play at a certain time. I was so effective, and it was because you don't have to think about the extra stuff on the side. You already know what you're supposed to do, and you do that very well. But that's not the best way to be creative, So I get why some people lean one way or the other. And, like my dad is more on the cultural side, and there's something he likes to say, like, hey, it's worked for hundreds of years. And that's a great point. Like, my thing is new, and I don't know if it's going to work. It might fall apart. The cultural perspective way has existed for a very long time, has a pretty good track record. So I don't blame anyone for going that way. I could already see your faces smiling when I said that.
Ashley's face just like grimace, like
struggling. I was like, let him finish his point. Ashley, be respectful. Let him finish his point.
That's fine.
I feel like it's worked for hundreds of years because, again, broad generalization, because the assumption is we're able to rely on the unpaid labor of women. Nowadays, where like when it was just the man going into work, he was able to do that because he had his wife at home doing the unpaid labor of managing their entire household, raising his children, doing literally everything else. Maybe he has to mow the lawn, maybe he's going to grill sometimes, but she is holding his shit down
for free.
And still for free. And she gets some, status depending on what his income is, what their area where they live is, how many children they have, how successful their children are. But her whole entire identity is wrapped up in being a wife and mother. And his role, if they were to separate, he can continue working and, do his thing and be relatively okay. He has a source of income. He can hire for whatever things that his wife previously did, right? Cooking, cleaning, those are things you can easily
right.
outsource to other people. Whereas she is likely to still have to care for those children and then also find some sort of income stream. Maybe she has to get married again. Maybe that's her best option to care for herself. And as we're moving into this time period where more women are working full time, the responsibilities of the entire household, which is a complicated and never-ending job in itself, continues to rest on the backs of women who are now having full-ass careers, dealing with all of the workplace sexism and inequality that happens there, and also managing the household. And it's now a debate of how do we divide up the household stuff, but because that's just kind of come in as the undercurrent, that's how it's always been. It's hard to then break all of those just existing preconceived notions of who's responsible for those things, because we always think about it of well, she's just a better cook. It's well, yeah, because she's fucking had to. There's no other option.
She's been practicing for how many years?
She's had to. She's been cooking since she was probably young enough, old enough to reach the stovetop and help her mom. And it's just it just bothers me a lot when it's it's always worked. It's it's worked because of women. We are the little Flintstone legs underneath the car making it run, and everybody else is just wow, this car is so fast. Isn't this amazing? And we're just gasping for air. Just look down.
Yeah.
Snaps to everything you just said. That was spot on.
Yeah, oh man, how the hell did I end up with the I don't like to be on this side, but I will say there are women who prefer that though.
And I'm not saying that's not the case.
Yeah. And if you are a guy who's looking for that, just look for the woman who wants that. And if you're a woman who doesn't want that, I know this is very common sense and obvious, but I think sometimes we fall into the trap of we kind of fall into the trap of this is what society says, and there's a reason why there are people who are let's say queer, they would leave their hometowns and go to larger cities. If the rules in that place don't work for you, fuck it, go to another place where the rules do work for you, play another game, I guess. And so if you can't, I get there's some country, if you can't leave your country, what are you going to do? So I don't mean to do that in a dismissive way, but I think on this show in particular, we kind of see that all the time where it's people with different viewpoints on that. And if the person you're with doesn't work with your preferred manner of,
well, yeah.
But I also just
you're not wrong, they're not wrong, just leave. Do your own thing.
I think though you just have even what Ash was saying, you should be grateful, right? No matter what role you take, whether it's 50-50, whether it's traditional.
That's fair.
I think both can have examples of people who are ungrateful and people who are grateful. So I think we're in an era where just learn to recognize how much weight your partner is bringing, whether that's financially, mentally, like the workload is there, whether or not you see it. And I think we just have to be more grateful to that.
Yeah, and just acknowledge all of those little things. You know, like we always talk about, like, invisible labor and, like, all the stuff that happens behind the scenes that's, like, hard to make a checklist out of because it's just things that you just take care of, you know? And I also think, like, obviously this whole conversation around gender roles, it gets blown up when we, like, actually talk about all relationships and, like, what are queer relationships like, where we have, like, different genders together, different genders and non-binary folks. Like, all of these things also, like, ironically feed into those, like, sort of parameters sometimes of, like, like all the stupid thing of, like, oh, who's the man in the relationship when it's two women? And it's like, no, the whole point is there is no man here, first of all. And second of all, that, like, that is the opportunity for two people to come together and really look at the relationship and what each person wants to bring to it and what dynamic that they want. And it's kind of like, it's a little bit liberating to think about relationships in that way, because it's like, oh, this is really just like, what do two individuals bring to the table and what kind of life do they want to build, rather than, okay, I plug into the wife spot, you plug into the husband spot, and then we're going to make two children's to fill that spot, and we'll put the decal on the back of the van and get a golden retriever, and, like, this is our life, you know? Like, no, you can do fucking anything. You can have any type of relationship you want. The hard part is figuring out what that is and actively looking for it and not settling until you find it. And that's the secret to life.
Also, like, when you, like, when people talk about, like, that's how they did it in the olden days, some of my favorite conversations was like with older grandparents and just older people in the community, where, like, you quickly discover, so there's this saying in Igbo culture, like, forget what they write on the car, hop in the car and drive it. And, like, a lot of the point being that, like, forget the narrative, like, actually be in that situation, actually talk to those people.
I like that.
And in my experience, when I've talked to elderly people who were in the 50s and 60s, where it was the man goes home and brings the bacon, all that stuff. There were times where it was like, oh yeah, she worked for a few months because I got laid off and I didn't have any, or, like, and she would just not tell anybody. Like, the amount of stories that are like that, or, oh yeah, like, he actually loved cooking, but he was embarrassed to tell anyone, so he would actually do all the cooking and take care of the kids, but we would just say, I did it. Like, there's so many stories that are like that, but from the outside, you look at, like, your TV and your BBC from that period, they're like, they make it seem like everyone was one way, where of course that wasn't the case.
I was
of course, the representation is limited.
Yeah, I was in a relationship where I slid him the credit card at every dinner so that he could pay for it, because, like, that was...
Oh, no.
I mean, like, at the time I was fine with it. Like, I mean, I didn't really care. But it was, like, it was still when I was learning, like, what kind of relationship I want. Do I want traditional? Do I want more progressive roles? And at the time I was like, hey, I'm okay paying. It's not about the paying. It's like, but if you are adamant about, like, hey, I want to be the provider, like, I'll just let you look like a provider. I don't care.
Yeah.
That's wild.
They're like,
really
that's
interesting.
Not like that. I think that's way more common than people make it sound, you know? Like, there are more women in college than men. It has been that way for a very long time. Before the pandemic, there were more women in the workforce than men. So generally speaking, like, that's not that uncommon, but everyone wants to put on this macho facade and like, just be yourself. And if that's your situation, that's okay. If it's not your situation, that's okay. But yeah, it's, especially in the olden days, like, you can romanticize anything. Like, there are people who are, like, romanticizing slavery. Like, oh, it was great back then. Like, yeah, for, like, a small group of people. But it sucked. Even those people, they were all dying in their, like, 50s and 40s. Like, they weren't
Yeah.
So were they having a good life?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Do you just like the aesthetic, or do you actually want to live where like you have to like pee in a pot under your bed in the middle of the night and stuff?
That sounds awful. I want nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
Nothing. Mosquitoes in the South, awful. They didn't have air conditioning until the 50s. How do you do that?
All right. I think we've exhausted this topic.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Just ending it here. It's been an hour.
We have one last thing that, actually two things. So we can wrap it up quickly if you want, or we can.
Let's see
I
what
was
it goes.
joking. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're kind of adjacent to Jose and Rachel, wherever that ended up. I did want to mention there was this one comment that Jose made to the camera when it was like their wedding night. Rachel was in the bathroom getting changed out of her wedding dress, and they clearly asked him some question around like, "Are you going to try to make something happen tonight? You know, like get a little physical." And he was very lighthearted about it and was like, "Yeah, I don't know. We'll just kind of see what happens. You know, I'm not going to pressure her or anything if she's not like comfortable." But, and then he made some joke about how if she were to want to initiate things, that he was like, "Well, I would kind of have to, wouldn't I? Like, I can't say no. Like, that wouldn't be very manly." And I just wanted to acknowledge that because I feel like that's kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
So I'll let you guys tell me your thoughts on that comment of his.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll go first because I'm just going to agree with you. So I don't know what I'm adding to this, really.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's annoying to see like the repeated like, oh, men just want sex, obviously. So this is what like, no, both or all genders, like if these individuals signed up for their show, they want the lasting partnership. Doesn't necessarily mean they want sex on the first night. They, like we've even heard some individuals talk about, they want the emotional connection because that's going to be more meaningful to them. And sex is going to be amazing. Yes, like obviously you want that. You don't want to just do away with it. But I just kind of rolled my eyes. I was like, really, dude? Like, you can have an opinion too. This isn't just like, oh, as a man, I have to want sex. Like, why wouldn't I be not macho of me? Like, okay, anyways, next story, please. Like, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think you guys are both progressive on how you look at this, though. I think that's something we need to take into consideration, where, like, that is why we're friends / engaged, depending on the person. But I think there's definitely this, there's this thing where if you say no when a person is hitting on you from a lady's hitting on you, there's like this, oh, is he gay thing? Like there's that part of it. But I think another thing is the stereotype / cultural thing is the guy is constantly hitting on people. He's constantly asking people out. And because of that is used to rejection more, where women tend to be on the receiving side of that. And in turn, when they do go out of their way to put effort, if they get rejected, it hurts a lot more, you know? So like, I feel like I have to always use a soccer reference, but like when I was a midfielder, if I took a shot, that's what I do at this point. But like if I played midfielder and I was more like defensive midfield, if I had a shot and I missed, it hurt a lot because I'm only going to get 1 or 2 of those a game.
Yep.
When I was a striker or when I was a winger, I'm typically getting like 10, 15 shots a game. I miss a few, it doesn't hurt as bad. And I think that kind of falls into the sex conversation where even, you know, like we said, I think most of us on this feel a certain way, but I think generally it's typically the guy that's initiating sex for most relationships on the globe. And because of that, when the lady does and he turns it down, it hurts a lot. And then it gets into this, like, is there something about me? Am I?
That's true.
Like, it can be read into a lot. So, like, I can say personally, not with us, I'm not saying this is our relationship, but I've been in relationships where, like, that has happened to me and I didn't feel like it, but I still did it because I knew if I was to say no in that situation, it was going to turn into does he like me? Are we not good? Da da da. And, like, that's not, I'm like, I'm just going to avoid this whole landmine. And so I think that's what he was trying to do and say. And you're right, it sucks and it shouldn't be that way. But that's kind of the world that we're in right now. So I don't think it should be that way. But Emma, do you guys kind of get that, or am I kind of overreading?
I think you're
situation.
No, I think you described that well.
Yeah.
I think there's also a difference in like how you decline or like slow things down, you know, and like there has to be like a level of communication there where I think like from the guy's side in like a straight relationship like this, the best chance for, how do I say this? Like, I feel like if you're the guy and you're turning her down and saying just like, I just don't like feel like it or whatever, it's just really important to understand the context of what you just described, Agu, and just know that like, this could be a big deal. And that all you have to do is slip in some like validation of like, I love you, or if you're not saying that yet, whatever, but like, I think you're smoking hot. I would love to do this another time. I'm just really tired, or I'm really in my head, or whatever. And just explain like a little bit so that it doesn't feel like just no. And I think even for women, that's important to do too, of like, I mean, just to like kind of just be vocal about like, nothing's wrong, like everything's okay, I just don't want to right now, and that's really all it is, you know? Like, I don't know.
That gets back to Bao and Johnny though, right? Because if you're only saying it but you keep the pillow in between you every single night, like, is Johnny really going to believe you anymore? Or are you just, you know, or you could also start to just logically think about it like, hey, things over time, it's like the physics rule, like, you know, stay in motion, you know, stay at rest. Like, if we just slowly over time stop having sex, then we're just not going to ever have sex. And so if, therefore, I reject you one time, and I reject you the next time, and I reject you the third time after that, and now, you know, who knows how long it's going to be, that can just perpetuate.
Yeah.
Also,
I think it's just like, to me, what he was saying essentially was, if I want to have sex and she doesn't consent, then I will totally respect that. If she wants to have sex and I don't consent, that's a problem. It's like his consent is like, it doesn't matter what he wants. Like, it just matters if she wants it, then that has to happen. Otherwise, that like means something about him as a man, or like, I don't know. It's just like, for once, I'm actually standing up for men in this situation. We're like, hey, it actually matters for you to want to do it too. And like, it's just a matter of like, everyone's in complete control of what they're doing with their body and what's being done to their body at all times. Like, it's just bodily autonomy, and that applies to everyone, regardless of your gender. So just a disclaimer. That's all.
But like, I think the point you mentioned though, about like how to do that, I think that's important though. Like, we all know the way it should be, but we're in a messy world where not everything translates the way it should. And I think just being mindful of that, of like, just the way you said that, I think that's a great point. And Jose, we respect you. We respect men
yourself,
and women.
Respect
yourself. Do something different with your beard, but that's just on a different.
You like his
side.
beard?
I'm gonna sound judgy, but like it's just like way too close to his lips. I don't know what that is. Like, you can trim it so that you got a little bit of space. Like, it looks like it's just like his lips just got glued onto a beard, and I don't know. I think it's just he hasn't given it.
Is this what guys think about when they look at
room.
each other's beards?
Oh, for sure.
I gotta look at his
100%.
beard again. I've never noticed
Yeah.
this. I'm just like,
Yeah,
that's just
and like
Jose.
just a good barber will trim that up and give you like all of this is just symmetry. That's all this is. So like just have a symmetrical beard. You'll be fine, man. You'll be good.
Tips
right.
from Magoo.
Yeah, beard tips from Magoo. All right.
That's the one few thing I could give advice on. It's beard.
All right. The last and final topic I think that we should hit on is something that kind of came up with Mirla and Brett a little bit too, where Mirla did not want to kiss Gil when they got married and they had their ceremony. She was just very adamant she wasn't comfortable with it. He's a stranger. And this is... Agu's mic just completely fell down. We're good. We're good now.
Sure.
So she was very adamant that she didn't, want to kiss. I don't think they still have shared a kiss yet at this point. Just kind of a kiss on the cheek. And that's kind of a thing. And she's like very, very clear that like, you are a stranger to me, even though we're married, it doesn't like make anything different. This is kind of like a first date kind of situation still for me. So like not okay. And then we also heard with Brett that like one of her previous relationships, with this person that like they did not kiss at all for the year or so that they were together. And, they ended up not staying together, of course, but there's kind of that lack of that physical intimacy that kind of plays into things. So I kind of want to just bring this around to like, I guess one, what if you have any thoughts on like, I guess Mirla or Brett in particular with this, but also her whole thing about like, you don't kiss on a first date. Like, do you guys agree with that?
Real quick, I wanted to mention a little bit of context about the Brett comment you made.
Okay,
Brett
yeah.
mentioned that in her unfiltered discussion after the episode. She said that, hey, the 2 years where I didn't have any intimacy, there's more to that story. 1 year, she was in a relationship with someone who didn't kiss, and the second year was COVID. So that's where that came from.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. I feel like a lot of people weren't kissing during COVID. It was rough out here in these COVID streets.
Can't kiss over a Zoom call.
Just haven't gotten that technology down yet.
Oh gosh, just got a Black Mirror like flashback to that episode,
No.
but we won't. Yep. For anybody who's seen the episode would know what I'm talking about.
I think the
haven't.
one where they had the you can like see things, like the little.
No, it's a suit. It's an
Like you can
episode
see
where you
images.
can like be over video and you wear the suit and you feel
No.
everything the other person it like is on the other side of that for, and so
Yeah.
Oh,
It's-
my.
Upload is like a really cool Amazon TV show about like the future.
yeah.
Has that like one person's dead, but she's having relationships with him, and she puts on this suit that she could feel
Wait.
everything he does.
Maybe I'm thinking of Upload
That-
though.
I think you might have been thinking of Upload.
Creepy technology, either way.
Anyways, back to Married at First Sight. What's your opinion on kissing on the first date, Agu?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I'm down with that. I mean, we kissed on our first date. I don't know. Should I be saying that? I don't know. Fine. Maybe we'll cut this out. I don't know.
I don't care.
But I think I don't get why, whether it's Mirla or Karen, why, if you feel this way, why would you come on this show? I don't understand that. Like,
That's fair.
if you know that you need time to get to that point, being married to someone that you've never met before might not be the best room for you.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand that. I feel like I say this every season, but I feel like if you're going to be on the show, you need to be like an Amelia, where the amount of times in her season, she's like, I'm just going to try it out. Like, that's the type of personality you need to have if you're going into a experiment. Like, it's literally they tell you it's an experiment.
Yeah.
And then you get surprised that they're experimenting on you. Like, it's like, we told you that's what this is. So there's that. But then on the other side of it, I think that's okay. I get different cultures are like that. That being said, that same scene where she said that, she also mentioned that like she would like him to buy him stuff and buy her stuff, and it feels like she just doesn't like him. I think it's just that simple. Like, she's already told us she preferred someone who has hair and a beard, and he has none of those things. And it feels like you've been placed in a marriage with someone that you're just not physically attracted to. And it's going to take her some time to get to that point. And she's not saying it because, of course, that's a mean thing to say. But I think it's just that. Like, I have a feeling if we talk to all her previous relationships, whatever she considers attractive, if she got paired with that, she was more likely to kiss that person. It's like the difference between one guy being creepy and another guy being cute, aggressive, or
yeah, endearing.
Is you find, or endearing, is you find one attractive and one
100%.
Like, it's typically just that. So
I mean, yeah,
that's where
I agree with like
this.
everything you said. I feel like maybe this is more of a platform for someone who's a little, like you said, Amelia. However, just to play devil's advocate, if you think about it also from someone who needs to take time and thinking about what Johnny said, where he is like quick to leave, this is an arena even. This is a space where you are forced to stay. So if Mirla is used to someone who's like, wait, you're not giving it up to me, like, peace, you know? And this instead is like, wait a second, he has to stay and get to know me for the pace that I want, because, you know, I want to take time to get to know this person. Then it's more likely to work out versus trying to decide after the first date. Okay, now decide after the second date. Okay, now decide after the third date. And she has said that she has never kissed someone on the first, second, or third date, which when I heard that, it just sounded like one of those stupid rules to me of like artificial, like, what is it? Don't text after the first day, or I don't know. All those stupid rules of like, check this box, don't check that box. And people are very gray and onion and et cetera, et cetera. Like, there are so many dynamics that play into that. It's just basic cut and dry rules like that I just don't agree with. So yeah, I feel like I agree with everything you're saying, Agu. However, thinking about it maybe from Mirla's perspective, this is helpful to her to have someone who will wait around until after the third date, because it gives them time to get to know each other.
I could see that. I also just think that Mirla, for the big front that she puts up, I think she is very, very guarded. I don't think we really have met Mirla at all yet. I think that, I don't know. I feel like she is so particular and so, she clearly has this sort of vision of like what sort of environments and things are up to her standards, and like that's fine. But I think she leans on those things quite a bit so that there's an excuse for her not to be present. I haven't seen her be present at all through any of her scenes yet. She's so focused on, well, this isn't quite right, or that's not right, or I'm upset about this, or whatever. Like, she's very distracted by all of those things. And I also haven't really seen her really try to be present with Gil very much. Like, it's always, I don't feel like she's really being that real, where I think that happens when you've been hurt a lot, or you have just whatever trauma and baggage stuff that we all have, and that's kind of her maybe her way of kind of staying safe from that. But
true,
I just wish she would. I wonder how different their conversations would go if she were just honest with him, of like, oh, when we're at this resort, it makes me feel like maybe I haven't been as successful in life as I thought I have been. It makes me feel like I'm still back from the, like, I think she talked about growing up in kind of tough conditions and like really working to get herself to a place where she can afford nicer things. And I have that same thing that I hit on sometimes. Like there's been a time that Agu and I went to Detroit to go to a festival, and we stayed at this one hotel, or it was like a motel. And it was like downtown, and it was like not super nice, and like just it like brought me back to this place of being a kid, and not like my family just couldn't afford like super nice places. And I was just like, oh no, like this is supposed to be a reminder of who I actually am. Like I am that like white trash kid, you know, and like that's not true or whatever, but like it brings back those feelings. And I feel like that was maybe what Mirla was experiencing too. That like maybe she has to be surrounded by the best things to feel like, no, like this is actually the stuff that I deserve. And it's like, yeah, you deserve all the good stuff, but that doesn't change depending on where you are. Like you can go walk into a gas station and you're still a bad bitch. Like you don't have to be in the Ritz-Carlton to be that bad bitch. Like you're still, that's your energy. That's what you carry with you. That's who you are.
True.
And so I feel like all of that kind of stuff is getting in the way of her and Gil really connecting, and all this stuff about not feeling like she wants to kiss or be affectionate or all that kind of stuff is also just her really slamming on the brakes of just like, do not get close to me, because if you see me, you might reject me, you might leave. And I mean, what a situation to be in for that. Yeah. And if that's a lot to break down for them to be able to like bond early enough to kind of break those things down and like be able to build a solid relationship. I don't know. I just feel like that's a lot to ask of somebody for a show like this. Yeah. So once again, I'm very surprised that she was selected, because wowza. But you know, that's also why I wouldn't be selected, because wowza.
That was not the best hotel. It was pretty bad. It was close to the festival, but it was not a good great hotel. So, wow. Yeah, I didn't think about it from that perspective. Like maybe she has a chip on her shoulder like everyone else does, and this is one way
all have
that she
stuff.
can.
And I could be way off base. I see myself in her in that way.
Yeah. And we're not, it feels like we're basically just using this as a jump off point to talk about other stuff. So Mirla, if you watch this, you probably aren't, but we're not judging you. We're just talking about ourselves, honestly. So it's fine. I think so there's two things I've noticed with her. One is, it seems like she wants to be in a relationship. Like that is so much so that she's willing to go on a show like this. She's, I think, 35. I'm going to assume she's been dating for a decade plus at this point. If it hasn't worked for you, let's try other things, you know? Like, let's try other things. Like, I get it. You have your thing. You tried that. Didn't work. Bring a soccer reference. I try to do rainbows all the time. It just was not happening on the field. At a certain point, I can do that at home, maybe not in the middle of an actual game. So there's that. But then I think the other thing is, and I ironically am on the other side of this, where I tend to be very, very positive, and that can be frustrating at times, I imagine. But being always negative, that's a hard energy to be around. And like a lot of the things she said, I kind of agreed with her, you know, like they could have had a better place to go on a honeymoon. I don't disagree. I think Florida, all the jokes we've made aside, like it's a great state. Just that wouldn't be my choice for a honeymoon. But to like harp on that, to harp on the drink, and she's saying like, oh, this milk is this almond milk or is it milk? Mm-hmm. Like all those type of things. It's really hard to be around that. And I think Gil, the scene where he was basically just talking crap about Mirla to the other couples, not great. Like, keep your relationship stuff internal.
Yeah.
But I think part of that was frustration because she complains about everything. And it's hard for you to enjoy things when you're around a person who is a complainer. I mean, she called herself that. Mm-hmm. And I think this is one of those things that like a lot of the time we're doing this, we're like, hey, this is just you. Find someone who fits with that. But I think this is one of those things that you should try to fix. Like, it is really, really easy to be a complainer. It is a lot harder to be a person who's like, you know what, but this is how we're going to fix it. Like, if she was doing those things and then was like, you know, like, for example, the resort, oh, I don't like it here, but let's go to this place and this place that's 15 minutes away. I think this will be more fun. Mm-mm. That's a way better energy to be around than, I mean, Gil had the whole thing about let's do the plane ride, and the entire time she's complaining and pulling away. Like, that is not an encouraging vibe to be around. And that's just going to push people away. It is.
And it works well, doesn't it?
It does. It works very well.
It works very well at keeping her safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like, I think from a dating perspective, if you do that, like, just people they'll stay around. They'll like hit you up every once in a while, but they're not going to want to like be there full time. You know, it's going to be like the check in to see if I can get a booty call, but like not really want to date the person. And that's like, if you're pushing everyone away like that, that's the type of person who's going to be remaining. Like, just be all in whenever you're doing. Like, if you're not feeling it, cool, leave at that. But just be all in. Like, whether that's work or sports or whatever.
And we can only hope, right, that like she sees this as like maybe a little bit of an eye opener. Like, oh wait, why was I doing this? I was complaining a lot, and I could have said something or done something differently. And it's coming off a lot like on Gil. Hey, I don't enjoy being here with you, for example. And I don't know. Yeah. Hopefully she kind of takes that and reflects. Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. It is hard to be around.
It reminds me of a term I learned in therapy called radical acceptance. Are you guys familiar with this at all? Yeah, I do. Are you? I'm surprised I haven't like given you a full lecture on this.
You probably have. And
He's like, I fell asleep. It's basically, it's just the idea of, I mean, it's pretty much in the title, radically accepting whatever your situation is for whatever it is and not trying to change it. So for example, right now, maybe in the back of my mind, I'm like, ooh, I wish I were on the beach and I had a margarita and I was getting a foot massage by my bay and we're going to have some delicious food and then we're going to go swimming, whatever. That's in the back of my mind. The reality is I'm sitting in my office right now in our home on the weekend and I'm talking to my friends and we're having this conversation. I can't change the fact that I'm here. What?
I'm trash at foot massages, so I don't know if that would be.
It's fine. The fact is that I am here, that I am in this body that have been given. I'm in this place that we have now. This is the situation. And I don't have to change anything about it. I can if I want to, but this is it. And this can also happen in the worst of times and the best of times, that like just radically accept, just fully look at your situation for what it is and don't blink and just be like, okay, this is what we're working with. And the more I think that I've learned to do that, and even looking at the hard stuff of like, okay, here's some things about myself, for example, that I don't love. But if I just look at them for what they are, straight on, without blinking, instead of making up all these different stories about why I am this way and giving myself excuses and why I shouldn't work on it or why it doesn't matter or people don't even notice anyways, the more I can just look at it, then I can actually deal with it if I want to, or at the very least, cut off all those stupid stories and have a little bit more brain space. And I think maybe that's something that would be helpful for Mila to learn to practice a little bit more of like, I'm in this, what feels like a retirement community in Florida with my new husband, who I'm not really sure about yet. I'm uncomfortable. I don't like the food they have here. I think the beach situation is garbage. It's just some marshy, like, leaves and stuff. Like, I don't like it. But the fact is that I am here and I am uncomfortable and I acknowledge that, but I'm okay. I'm alive. I'm being cared for. Like, I am okay. And just completely rethinking the whole situation as just like, okay, what's happening now? Okay, what's happening now? And just taking it bit by bit, because I think she's just getting so lost and like, this isn't what I expected. This isn't what I want. And it's like, yeah, that's okay. So what? Like, then what? What, you're gonna like get a new husband? You're gonna, go to a different resort? You can't, like, that's not the situation. So
at least not today, right? Like,
at least not today. And that's fine.
Yeah. It does feel like she's going to be getting a new husband pretty soon.
Damn.
I don't see them staying together.
I mean, realistically today maybe, but in the episode today, which is actually how many months ago?
We'll see.
She comes back with the pool cleaner, like, this is my new husband. Yes, hair. You bald. Yeah. But how do you guys feel about
Excuse me.
macaroons versus chocolate chip cookies? That was the whole scene where he like got her to macaroons and she's like, oh yes, like, oh, fancy. And then he had it, and I think he called it a bougie cookie, which was hilarious. Great line. But do you have a preference out of macaroons or cookies? That's
Mabel,
my question.
please go first.
I mean, I really honestly did think when I saw them, this was before anybody talked, I was like, oh, those are just the extra cookies. Like, this was before anybody opened their mouth. I was like, the extra fancy cookies for no reason.
Have you ever had macaroon?
I have had the ones without coconut. There's like the one with the 2 O's and the one with the 1 O. But yeah, I mean, they're okay to me. I'm not impressed. Just give me a chocolate chip cookie.
I'm gonna sound just like I'm really passing off the question, but I like both. If I were to choose between is it macaroon or macaron? I feel like I sound like a weirdo no matter which way I say it.
I think
Whatever.
it's macaroon.
That kind.
Isn't it French?
Macaron.
Macaron.
I just have to do my little hands. If I were to choose between those two, I would choose a macaron because I don't know how to make those myself. I can make chocolate chip cookies any day. I can get that anywhere. But they're special. And like, it takes a lot of skill to make them actually too. Like, there's very particular ways that you're supposed to do it. And I think they taste good. I also have a sweet tooth. So like, all cookies are great in my opinion. But that's why I would choose that one. But, it's also like a kind of exclusivity thing, or like, what is it? Like not rarity, but where there's like less of something. So
Scarcity?
You want it more. Yes. Thank you. Scarcity. It's like a scarcity mentality where I'm like, I can't get this again, like right away. I better have some.
Fair.
Meanwhile, there's like a macaroon factory that has like millions of units
Just
of
down the
this
road.
thing
Could have had it.
just popping out. Yeah. I think they're both okay. I'm with you. I would much rather have like a white macadamia nut cookie from like Subway. I think those are fantastic than the macaroons that I've had. But to Ashley's point, I do, like, we do this when we go out, but like if you're gonna go out to a restaurant, I want to order something that I can't make. So it's gonna be like
exactly.
You're right.
bone marrow or free, like a drink that uses liquid nitrogen or like something weird. Like, I don't want something that I could like.
Nitrogen. That's really fancy.
Is that poison?
It will kill you, but it'll be delicious.
Sounds like we shouldn't go
Like,
to
I would
places that
much
serve
rather
that.
something.
I think that's
like
a
that's
murder
something.
house.
That is a murder.
I thought
house.
that's that one that the gas that they put in the glass and they like pick it up and it's like the smoke. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I just feel like,
Or they'll put it at the bottom of the drink. You're not supposed to actually drink it.
that's what I was confused
It's
about.
in the
'cause I'm
drink.
like,
Oh, I thought it was just the presentation. My bad.
No,
This
you're
is how
right. It is
non-fancy I am.
presentation. No, you're right. It's presentation. You're
Oh
right.
my gosh. I didn't know that you can mistakenly.
People are dumb. Just assume that people have tried everything to do. So yeah, so if I was them in that situation, I would exclusively be eating macaroons and like, you guys are paying for this? Okay.
Well, hell yeah, or champagne.
Lobster, champagne, baby caviar,
the king crab, everything.
King crab, yes, yeah.
The good
salmon
stuff.
Flown out from Alaska.
Flued out.
That day. Flued out.
We always make that joke, because what song is that? She's talking about being flued out, and I was like,
That's a YG song.
I want to be flued out. I want to get to the level where someone flues me out. Nope. I'm getting flued out.
You get flued out. Yeah, I love that song so much.
So
I'm going to listen to it. Yeah. Okay. So we now know. We now know. Macaroons, no. Maybe yes. And then me with I don't care.
Tell us in the comments. Do you like chocolate chip cookies or macaroons? Let's have a battle in the comments section.
Fight it out.
We're gonna get like pastry chefs like so pissed off at us. Like, how can you possibly have this discussion? What?
How dare you? Right.
Uncultured.
Right, uncultured for sure.
I think we've officially touched all. We've talked about all the couples.
I think we did it. Yeah, I think we.
Oh, I guess we didn't really talk about Brett and
Ryan.
Her.
Well, we
Ryan.
kind of talked about them. Her being the 2 years, and
yeah,
we barely touched on them.
Yeah, I think we're kind of our vibe now is just to call out the things that stick out and that we want to discuss a little bit more. So I think it'll kind of vary time to time who we're talking about, and I'm sure Brett and Ryan will have their time too. We talk about them more.
True.
What?
Having a date while getting couple massage, just weird. Don't like that. Just
trying to have a
conversation.
Conversation.
Yeah, like they were talking about like kids and stuff, and then I could hear him going like, "Oh yeah, that's the spot." Like just
that was
bad. You can't combine those two. Like just be in the massage, enjoy that. I almost want to talk about our couple massage experience. It was very weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm never doing that again.
Do that again. I don't know. I don't know about that one.
That was bad. We're not gonna. Okay.
No.
Okay. We'll talk about that another time. Catch us next time so you can hear about Agu and my terrible couples massage experience. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up.
I was way too flexible for my liking.
So wait,
just
the next time is now.
You can't.
Like he was just doing stretches that were just unnecessary for the massage beforehand. I was just like, why are you getting this limber?
Okay. Again, we'll talk about that at another time. It's a little too much for everybody right now. Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining us. This has just been us talking about Wait at First Sight Season 13 up to Episode 5. Again, go find us on Instagram at Couple3Podcast. You can send us an email at couple3podcast@gmail.com. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, leave some comments below about what you think about the season so far. So, all right, well, thanks for joining us. We will catch you next time.
Thank you. Bye.